Great. So we are about to start our last session in our conference, and we are going to invite the moderator in a minute to take the lead for the last session. I just would like to say that after this session, that will not be too long, Professor Ben Israel, the head of all this Cyberweek, will come here for a short kind of greeting or concluding remarks that he will be happy to share with us. So please stay with us, and in a minute will join me here Dr. Eran Toch, our senior lecturer at the Department of Industrial Engineering at Tel Aviv University and a co-head of the IWIP lab. Eran Research Group is working on various projects related to cyber topics and other engineering aspects. So, Eran, please.
Okay. So again, thank you everybody for staying in this late hour. It's becoming a kind of a cliche to say that humans are the weakest link in cybersecurity, but we see that more and more. We see that the latest hacks of the Podesta emails in the Democratic Party, the Sony attacks, or the attacks on Sony were a mixture of phishing and malware attacks, and in all of them, the key part was human vulnerability. So we're going to have three, I think, great speakers that are going to talk about different aspects of human vulnerability. I'm going to start by presenting the first one, Professor Bonnie Anderson from Brigham Young University in Utah. Bonnie, two different singers. Bonnie is, in my mind, a trailblazer in the area of neurosecurity. She's doing amazing studies using fMRI and other methods that she's going to talk about real soon. And her studies are really, putting a very rigorously scientific and solid basis for human aspects of cybersecurity. So, Bonnie, let's hear you.
Yes, we're doing that.
So that's our lab's website, and I noticed the SSL warning is coming up. It's legitimate, so I'm sorry, we need to renew our certificate. But if you want to see about what we've been doing. So sorry, let me get this back to the start. All right, the lighting is just not very good for this, so I am sorry. But I'm going to talk about what does the brain tell us about usable security. So you may have seen this quote: given a choice between dancing pigs and security, users will pick dancing pigs every time. And that's kind of an unfavorable view of security users, or users in general. It's assuming that they're indifferent or careless or lazy. And what we are trying to do in our, they're called clicky losers sometimes, in our lab is to look at the neuroscience tools and see if there are ways that we can make it more usable for users, that there are some things that are going on in our brains that actually bias us towards certain behaviors, and to try to work with those biases instead of against them. And as you mentioned, the weakest link, to see if we can shore that up. So today I'm going to talk about three specific areas that we've done with neurosecurity. So the first is dual-task interference. Some people call it multitasking. Number two is about habituation, and you may know this about like tuning out or warning fatigue. And number three is generalization, or where images start to kind of look similar even though they're different. So we're going to start with a video, and I apologize for audio quality. We're going to try to make this work with this microphone. So I want you to watch this video and look for a sign of mental bias.
Marcia, what happened?
Peter hit me in the nose with a football. I can't go to the dance like this.
Well, I'm sure it was an accident, sweetheart.
An eye for an eye. That's what Dad always says.
I never said that, honey.
Shut up! Time to teach Peter a lesson.
Marcia, eat a Snickers.
Why?
You get a little hostile when you're hungry. Better? Better.
Marcia, Marcia, Marcia.
Jan, this isn't about you.
It never is.
All All right, have any of you seen that commercial just on TV? A few, yeah. So the main thing, though, I wanted to see if you guys saw was that little message up there on the right. Raise your hands if you noticed when that security message came up. Everybody. Oh, wait, no. No, only a few people noticed that little security message up there. Did you guys see that pop up?
No. No, it's too small.
It was a bad time is what it is. We were busy watching that silly video, that commercial about why Snickers make you feel better. And that's what dual task interference is. And again, I'm sorry, this red is just the wrong color font for today. So most of us multitask all the time, and I think we feel like we're like this, but we're more like this, and it's bad for us in a lot of things. And specifically, when we are doing stuff on our computers and a message like this pops up, is it a good time for you to stop what you're doing and address the security concern or notification or whatever it might be? The answer is most of the time, no. Most of the time, it's a bad time. So how bad is this problem? Well, we did a study, and there's me. It's actually a reverse video for some reason, but we scanned people. That's our fMRI scanner at our lab at BYU. And so we stuck people in the scanner and watched what was going on in their brains when we were interrupting them with security messages at bad times. So this specific study, we looked at what was going on in the brains of each subject when they were just resting. Then we added a memory task. So here's a 7-digit number, 5 seconds to learn that. Okay, now pick it from here. Okay, so that's using your working memory. That's supposed to simulate when we're doing something on our computer. We also had a security task. So we tried to make it kind of realistic, and many of you have probably installed Chrome extensions, or similar to even when you install apps with the Android, where you get these manifest warnings. In this specific case, we were using weather apps. And we had trained the people that look at those permissions that it's asking for. Are they reasonable or not for a weather app? You know, it may vary on context. And we had trained them which ones are good, which ones are bad. So for a weather app to access all data on your computer and the website you visit, that's a bad thing. That's overreaching. Please don't choose to install an app that's asking for that. So we had, sorry, that beeping your other computer here. So the high DTI, this is the high multitasking, the high dual task interference task. We had them memorize the code, that 7-digit number, then, oh, here's that app, should I install it or not? Is it one of those risky permissions? I'm trying to remember that security training that I've had. Oh, and what was that code again, that 7-digit number? And it interferes, kind of inhibits the medial temporal lobe. So that's where amygdala and hippocampus with memory are associated, that your working memory is busy with that when you're trying to remember your security training, then it becomes pretty hard. And we found the light colors here, those are the inhibited areas. So that's kind of what we anticipated. Well, so disregard. So when they chose an app that was scary or risky, that when they shouldn't have, if they were only doing the warning, they made a mistake 7% of the time. But when they were doing it at a bad time, it was almost 23%. And to see how it would be if we could keep the tasks, you still have to do the same things, but change the timing. So we just moved it. So you memorize your number, you recall your number, and then you deal with the security issue. How does that match? And we see that the security warning disregard is low, 8.8. It's almost as low as if the only thing they were doing was that warning task. And so why don't we, if we can, do it at better times is kind of what we're saying. Sometimes you can't, sometimes you can. So we worked with the Chrome security team. They fund some of our research, and so we brainstormed with them, are there some good times, are there some bad times? Is there a security message that could be delayed? Some you can't. We acknowledge that, but if you could, which ones could we change? And like this one. You can't save that one for later. You have to address it before you can proceed. But this one, and I'm going to zoom in there, that one is one that it runs kind of behind the scenes, and Chrome can detect, and this is on Windows machines, if some adware or malware or whatever's been installed and it's offering to try to clean it up for you. But does it have to happen before you can proceed? No. So this was perfect for us to adjust the timings of it and see what would happen. So using this video, again, so we had about 1,000 mechanical Turkers watch this video or do some other task, and we would alternate when this little message would come up. So some of the better times, we said, are after the video, right? When you're in the middle of the video, that's not a good time, but after video is a good time. Or when you're waiting for a page to load, you have nothing else to do, oh, you'd pay attention to it then. Or when you're waiting for a web-based task to complete. So we artificially had that little wait thing going on, like they had to enter some things, and while that was just waiting, then that came up, then more of them noticed it. So here's kind of the summary, where I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but just you can see the average when it was at a good time, low interference, they disregarded it 36% of the time. Compared to a bad time, 80% of the time, they chose poorly. So their timing is helpful. There it is in graph form. Takeaway is brain is not good at handling interruptions, and if you can delay them to a more opportune time, you're going to get better results. Habituation, this is where we start tuning things out. So here's our little sea slug video. That was the first animal where it was studied, and kind of gross actually, it's like hand size. But that's the famous piece, and it's shown in humans as well. And we see little notifications like this a lot. This one's just updating software. So is that a critical security message? No, but it's a notification, and we start tuning those out. So how bad is this problem? Well, let's find out. So we exposed subjects to 40 security messages. So these are real ones that they would see. And we did it in the MRI, and we can see these top two graphs. Oh, that right one's not, oh, there we go, it was just delayed. Are areas associated with visual processing, so like the back part of your head, occipital lobe area, that the more times you see security messages, the less your brain is responding. It's relying on memory instead, like a computer with cache. It's faster to pull it from cache than to reload it. The bottom ones we can see are the ones associated with inattention or boredom. The more times you're seeing is the default mode network, for example, just it starts tuning it out. Why should I care? So to mix it up a little, to see if we could improve this, we changed how these look. So you can see it's the same message. The words are actually the same. But we put a border around it or highlighted it, or we have some animated ones, which we'll see if those work. So a little fidget or a zoom, or we also had one that twirls in. And we can see there's the original results. And here are our modified ones. So if there's a way that we could tweak the images to catch the brain's attention, hey, this is important. I know you're saving energy by trying to not reload this from scratch, but this time you do. You need to pay attention to this one. So we can see that the attention is higher, the boredom is lower when we went through those variations. And to do a further study, right, these are our best 4 we found out of all the variations. The next question is, all right, so we tweaked it and your brain paid attention. How often do we have to tweak it, and how much does it need to vary to catch our attention? So we did a longitudinal study, and this is groundbreaking. No one else has done this. And we also bought an eye tracker that goes at the end of the fMRI. So we are doing eye tracking, where you're looking exactly, and what's going on in your brain, matching the blood flow to certain areas of your brain with what you're looking at, with what you're answering. And we did it for 5 days in a row per subject, and we found, again, these 4 messages. We found that our red ones, those are the treatment ones, fared better than the standard, than the blue. So even over multiple days, the red still held their attention better than the non-polymorphic. And again, occipital is the main region we were looking at there. But we also looked at eye gaze fixations. So this is where you're looking on the messages, and we could see, and this is kind of, you can't see the lines per day when it starts over, day 1, day 2, day 3. And there's some recovery, but again, overall we're starting to decline, but the red stays higher always. So recovery, that is when it's withheld. This is the seminal piece on habituation. If you don't see it for a while, you're going to be a little bit refreshed. And again, using eye tracking, we measured this, and we can see, yes, there's some daily recovery. So if you withhold it, that's better. But even with that, it is better to have the variations than the standard. Then our reviewers at our top journal said, well, that's all nice and fine. In the lab setting, do us a real field study. So we did a longitudinal field study on mobile devices using Android. By the way, we did finally get this published in our top journal, MISQ. So maybe it was worth it. And we measured this time adherent behavior. So we're actually capturing how they behave, not just what's going on in their brain. We know that from the prior study, but what do they actually do given the treatment or not. So they had this mobile app store where they had to every day have a category, and we're just randomly serving them. You have entertainment today, and you have business tomorrow, and sports the next day, or whatever. And from that category, you have to pick from these 10 apps which are your 3 favorite. But don't be risky. Don't, and they have the warnings there. Don't download any apps that are asking for undue or risky permissions. So these are the ones we trained them. Don't do any of these. And you know what we found? One group had this, one group had the variations, and not a surprise, the people with the variations did better over time. Takeaways are, human brain is wired to tune it out. Sometimes we need to do that. You get too many things going on, tune out the unnecessary ones. But by updating that, we can do better. And finally, generalization. I'm going to go super quick. We're just starting on this. This is where we confuse messages that are just notifications with security messages, where the CSS, the nice look and feel, it makes it worse. And how bad is it? My video that I had there isn't here, but I don't have time because I'm going fast. But where we just tune out notifications. It was a cute little kid, and he just turned, 3 minutes, that one. All right, I'll tell you the story because I don't know what happened to it. But he's playing a little game on his iPad. It's my colleague's son, and ding, here's a notification. He swipes it away. And I think we do that. And did you guys notice this morning that there was a security message for that laptop? And it got closed, and it's scanning behind the scenes, and we're just trying to tune it, just get it out of the way, right? That we do that. Now, was that a critical one? No, it had some decent information about there might be malicious URLs or whatever, but we just get to the point where we tune out all the messages because, oh, here's an email notification. Oh, here's the little notification from Google that it thinks you're going here, and this is how long it's going to take you and how light traffic is or not. I don't know if you all get that, but I do. And so what we need to do is either limit the notifications or change the way they look. And so we're working with the Chrome security team to change the way some things look or the timing of those, and would like to influence any other software designers that we can, and we're going to do more research in this area as well. So again, I talked about these 3 areas: Dualtask Interference, Habituation, and Generalization, where we've been using neuroscience. So I've just mostly told you about fMRI and eye tracking. We also do EEG, we do mouse cursor tracking, we do cortisol tracking to see what goes on there. And Erin told me that I should mention that one of our first subjects in the MRI scanner, turns out she had a brain tumor that, again, we're not medically trained, so we just said, that doesn't look great, you should go to a doctor, a real radiologist, and it really was a tumor, and she got it removed. And so you should be subjects. Volunteer for an MRI study if you get a chance, because they might find something helpful. Or at our lab, that's how we actually pay our subjects now, is that we print out a tiny, like fist-size model of their own individual brains, and we also give them the 3D files. If they want to print a bigger one, it actually costs about $75 in material of a 3D printer. So we can't pay them that much, but they can print it on their own. And I've got mine sitting on my desk. So anyway, thank you for your attention. We think neuroscience holds the future for making security more usable, and so we won't have to be the weakest link. Again, you can look at our series of research there at neurosecurity.byu.edu. Thank you.
So we have time for 1 or 2 questions. Any takers? Please ask. Yeah. Yeah, Marco.
Just a very simple question. My impression is that it's difficult to get the fuzzy's behavior with this methodology. I mean, people, creative people, how do they react to security threats?
So creative types compared to other users?
Compared to geeks.
Yeah, that would be an interesting thing to study.
I'm working on that, but I understand it's not easy.
Yeah, mostly we're just looking at brain regions, and we've just pooled together across the general pool of subjects. But if we were to have some sort of way to classify, and maybe you do, these are creative types.
So you have geeks that lose with computers.
Yeah.
But creative people, fuzzies, don't use.
So we've talked about having security experts versus non-experts, and doing some things like that. And
more technical,
yeah.
More creative. I mean, this is something that the neuroscience could investigate more deeply.
Yes.
I wonder if it's a good question.
But we're like busy doing the security warnings, so we don't have time to ask questions about creativity. It's.
I will tell you, we did one study, and it's a little different, but using EEG, and we had security messages pop up in between regular things. And again, this is a pre-conscious response, so you can't fake this. Women had a higher surprise reaction to security warnings. It's called the P300, if you guys know EEG stuff. that when it came up compared to men, there was just a higher startle factor. So I'm thinking, you could tone it down if you can control who your user is. Women need, like a 70% warning to get the same response of men, like a 90% scare level or whatever. Perhaps, I know I do. Thank you.